What if I told you that scientists have proven your thoughts don't just influence your reality, they literally create it? Not in some vague, motivational way, in a measurable, repeatable, quantum physics kind of way. Right now, at the subatomic level, your consciousness is collapsing waves of possibility into physical form. That's not spiritual talk. That's science. And here's what's wild. Most people have no idea they're doing it. They're unconsciously creating the same patterns, the same struggles, the same limits over and over. But once you understand how the quantum field responds to observation, everything changes. This video breaks down the exact science behind why your thoughts shape matter, plus 4 techniques rooted in quantum mechanics that let you do it on purpose. And that fourth one? It's the exact method quantum physicists use in labs to prove consciousness creates reality. You've probably heard people say your thoughts create your reality. Maybe you rolled your eyes, maybe you thought it sounded nice but didn't buy it. And honestly, I get it. Because for a long time, manifestation was treated like wishful thinking dressed up in pretty language. But here's the thing, quantum physics changed everything. Scientists didn't set out to prove manifestation, they were just trying to understand how the smallest particles in the universe behave, and what they found flipped reality on its head. They discovered that matter doesn't exist in a fixed state until someone observes it. Let that sink in. The building blocks of everything around you, your body, your phone, the chair you're sitting on, don't have a definite form until consciousness interacts with them. That means you're not just living in reality, you're actively shaping it, every single moment. This is what quantum manifestation really means. It's not some mystical concept divorced from reality. It's manifestation science, backed by decades of research, hundreds of experiments, and findings that continue to shock even the scientists conducting them. When we talk about consciousness creates reality, we're not being poetic, we're being literal. And the mechanism behind it, that's what we're diving into today. So in this video, we're going deep. I'm going to walk you through the quantum science that proves your thoughts influence the physical world. Then I'm giving you 4 techniques, simple, practical, grounded in actual physics, that let you use this knowledge to shift your life. And that 4th technique? It's the observer effect method, the same principle scientists use in controlled experiments to show that awareness collapses potential into reality. If you've ever wanted to understand how quantum physics manifestation actually works, not just feel-good theory but real science, this is it. Let's go. Let me start with a question. What is reality made of? If you zoom in on anything, your hand, a table, a wall, you eventually get to atoms. Zoom in further and you find subatomic particles. Electrons, protons, neutrons. But here's where it gets strange. Those particles don't behave the way you'd expect. They don't act like tiny solid balls, they act like waves. Waves of probability. And those waves exist in what physicists call a superposition, meaning they're in multiple states at once until something observes them. The moment you measure or observe a particle, the wave collapses. It snaps into one definite state. That's called wave function collapse. And the thing doing the collapsing? Consciousness. This isn't fringe theory, this is foundational quantum mechanics. Niels Bohr, one of the fathers of quantum physics, said it straight up. When we measure something, we're not discovering what was already there. We're participating in bringing it into existence. Werner Heisenberg, another giant in the field, wrote that the idea of an objective reality, one that exists independently of observation, simply doesn't hold up at the quantum level. Reality, he said, is not a thing, it's a process, and you're part of that process. This is the foundation of quantum manifestation, the understanding that at the most fundamental level, consciousness creates reality through the act of observation. Now, let's talk about the most famous experiment that proves this, the double-slit experiment. It's been done thousands of times in labs all over the world, and the results are always the same. Here's how it works. Scientists shoot particles, let's say electrons, through two slits in a barrier. On the other side, there's a screen that records where the particles land. If you're not watching the electrons as they pass through the slits, they behave like waves. They create an interference pattern on the screen, meaning they went through both slits at once, like a wave spreading out. But the moment you set up a detector to observe which slit the electron goes through, the pattern changes. Suddenly, the electrons behave like particles. They go through one slit or the other, not both. The interference pattern disappears. Let me say that again. The act of observing changes the outcome. The electrons don't just reveal what they were doing, they change what they're doing based on whether or not you're watching. Consciousness doesn't just witness reality. It determines which version of reality shows up. And this isn't happening in some far-off dimension. This is happening right now, in your body, in the air around you, in every atom that makes up your life. This is manifestation science in action, observable, measurable, repeatable. So what does this mean for you? It means the old materialist worldview, the one that says you're a passive observer in a fixed, mechanical universe, is dead. You're not separate from reality. You're woven into it. And your awareness, your focus, your thoughts, they're not just floating around harmlessly in your head, they are interacting with the quantum field. They're collapsing waves of possibility into form, and if you're not doing it consciously, you're doing it unconsciously. Which means you're probably recreating the same reality over and over because you're observing the same things, thinking the same thoughts, expecting the same outcomes. But here's the exciting part. Once you know this, you can change it. You can start observing differently. You can start collapsing new possibilities. And that's what the 4 techniques I'm about to share are all about. These aren't just visualizations or affirmations. These are methods rooted in how the quantum field actually operates. And the 4th one, the observer effect technique, is the big one. It's what scientists use to prove this stuff works, and it's what you'll use to prove it to yourself. Before we get into the techniques, I want to bring in another layer, because quantum physics isn't the only field that's caught up to this. Neuroscience is right there with it. Dr. Joe Dispenza, who spent decades studying the intersection of brain science and consciousness, talks about this all the time. He says your brain doesn't know the difference between what's happening in your external world and what's happening in your internal world. When you vividly imagine something, your brain fires the same neural pathways as if it's really happening. And here's the kicker. Those neural signals send electromagnetic waves out into the field. Your heart does this too. The HeartMath Institute has shown that your heart generates an electromagnetic field that extends several feet outside your body, and that field changes based on your emotional state. When you feel gratitude, love, appreciation, the field becomes coherent, organized, powerful. That coherent field doesn't just affect you, it affects the quantum field around you. So you've got your brain sending out signals based on your thoughts. You've got your heart broadcasting a field based on your emotions. And you've got the quantum field responding to observation. All of this is happening at once. You're not just a body walking through space, you're a walking broadcast system. And what you're broadcasting, that's what you're collapsing into form. This is quantum physics manifestation at work, the seamless integration of your internal state with the external quantum field. Now let's get practical. Technique number 1, conscious observation. This is the simplest but most profound shift you can make. Start paying attention to what you're observing. Not just with your eyes, but with your focus. Where does your mind go automatically? What do you think about when you're not thinking about anything? Because that's what you're reinforcing. If you're constantly observing lack, problems, reasons, things won't work, that's the wave function you're collapsing. You're choosing that version of reality without even realizing it. So here's what you do. Several times a day, pause just for 10 seconds and ask yourself, what am I observing right now? What am I giving my attention to? If it's not what you want, shift. Find something, anything that aligns with the reality you're trying to create. Maybe it's something small, a moment of ease, a kind interaction, a sign that things are moving. Observe that, anchor into it, let your awareness linger there. You are not pretending problems don't exist, you are just choosing what gets your focused attention. Because whatever you observe expands. This is the heart of quantum manifestation, directing your observation intentionally rather than letting it run on autopilot. Technique number 2, embodied visualization. This goes beyond just picturing what you want. You have to feel it in your body. Remember, your brain doesn't distinguish between imagined and real. So if you want to collapse a new possibility, you have to give your brain the full sensory experience of it already being real. Close your eyes. Imagine the version of your life you're calling in. But don't just see it, feel it. What does it feel like in your chest, in your stomach? What's the emotional texture of that reality? Is it relief, excitement, peace? Let that feeling build. Let it become so real that your body starts to believe it's happening now. Dr. Joe Dispenza calls this living in the end. Neville Goddard taught the same thing almost a century ago. You can't just think about your desire, you have to occupy the state of already having it. And when you do that, when you align your thoughts and emotions with the reality you want, you send a clear, coherent signal into the quantum field. You stop being a passive observer, you become an intentional creator. This is where manifestation science meets practical application, where understanding the mechanics allows you to use them deliberately. And here's something most people miss. You don't have to visualize for hours. 5 minutes of truly embodied, emotionally charged focus is more powerful than an hour of distracted daydreaming. Quality matters more than quantity, so make it real, make it visceral, let your body feel the shift before your external world shows it to you. Technique number 3, energetic detachment. This one's tricky because it sounds contradictory. You're supposed to want something and not want it at the same time. But here's what it really means. In quantum terms, the moment you collapse a wave function, you have to let go of the need to keep collapsing it. You observe it into being, then you trust. You don't keep checking, you don't keep obsessing, because obsession is just another form of observing lack. It's saying it's not here yet over and over. Think about it this way. When you plant a seed, you don't dig it up every day to check if it's growing. You water it, you give it sunlight, and you trust the process. Quantum physics manifestation works the same way. You set the intention, you align your energy, you collapse the possibility, and then you let the quantum field do its thing. You detach from the how and the when. You stop white-knuckling the outcome. Because the tighter you grip, the more you're signaling doubt. And doubt is just observing a different wave function, the one where it doesn't work. So practice this. After you do your visualization, after you set your intention, take a breath and say, it's done. I trust this, I release the need to control it, and then go live your life. Stay open, stay aligned, but stop checking the mailbox every 5 minutes. The universe isn't Amazon. It doesn't work on your timeline, but it does respond to your frequency. And detachment is a high-frequency move. If this blew up your mind, hit subscribe and bell icon next to it. Also join our manifestation club on gogetter.au. This isn't just a channel, it's a frequency. If you felt a nudge or a shift while watching, you're already tuned in. We're not just absorbing content, we're practicing new ways of being. We're not just learning, we're remembering. Let's keep growing and shifting together. Now, let's talk about the big one. Technique number 4, the observer effect practice. This is what scientists use in labs, and it's what you're going to use in your life. The observer effect says that the act of measurement changes the system being measured. In quantum experiments, particles behave differently when they're being watched. They collapse from possibility into actuality, and you can use this exact principle to shift your reality. This is the cornerstone of how consciousness creates reality, the mechanism that bridges intention with manifestation. Here's how. Choose one area of your life where you want change. Maybe it's your finances, your relationships, your health. Whatever it is, you're going to become a conscious observer of it. But not in the old way, not observing what's wrong. You're going to observe what's emerging, what's shifting, what's new. Even if it's subtle, even if it's small, you're looking for evidence that reality is responding to you. Start a daily practice. Every morning or every night, write down 3 things you observed that align with your desired reality. They don't have to be big. In fact, the smaller the better, because it trains you to notice the quantum shifts before they become obvious. Maybe someone said something that made you feel valued. Maybe you felt a surge of confidence out of nowhere. Maybe you saw a number pattern or heard a song that reminded you of your goal. Whatever it is, write it down. You're teaching your brain to observe the new, and the more you observe it, the more it collapses into form. This is the exact same mechanism scientists use to prove quantum mechanics. They set up an experiment, they observe, and the system responds. You're doing the same thing with your life. You're setting up the conditions, you're observing consciously, and reality is responding. It has to, because that's how the quantum field works. This observer effect practice is quantum manifestation in its purest form, the direct application of quantum principles to personal transformation. And here's the thing, this practice doesn't just change what you see, it changes you, because the act of observing shifts the observer. You start to realize you're not helpless. You're not at the mercy of random events. You're an active participant in the unfolding of your life. And that realization, that shift in identity, that's where the real transformation happens. Let me give you some context from actual science. In 1974, physicists conducted an experiment at the University of California. They wanted to see if observation could affect randomness. They set up a random number generator and asked participants to mentally influence the outcome. The results were statistically significant. Consciousness affected the machine, not every time, but enough to prove it wasn't random chance. Since then, hundreds of similar experiments have been done. The Princeton Engineering Anomalies Research Lab ran studies for almost 30 years. Same conclusion. Consciousness interacts with physical systems. Your mind is not separate from matter. This is manifestation science at its finest, empirical evidence that consciousness creates reality. In the comments, drop one thing you deeply desire. Maybe it's financial freedom, maybe it's a loving relationship, maybe it's vibrant health, maybe it's something uniquely yours. Let this be a small but profound declaration, a signal to the quantum field you send not just in the space, but into the fabric of reality itself. Now I know some of you might be thinking, okay, but why doesn't it work all the time? Why can't I just think about money and have it show up? And that's a fair question. Here's the answer. Your conscious thoughts are only a small part of the equation. Most of your observation is happening subconsciously. Your beliefs, your past conditioning, your emotional patterns. All of that is constantly broadcasting into the field. So if you consciously think I want abundance, but subconsciously believe I'm not good enough to have it, guess which signal is stronger, the subconscious one. Because it's running on autopilot 24/7. That's why techniques like embodied visualization and the observer effect practice are so important. They're not just about thinking different thoughts, they're about reprogramming the subconscious. They're about changing the default signal you're sending, and that takes repetition, it takes consistency. But it works, because your brain is neuroplastic, it can change. And when your brain changes, your observation changes. And when your observation changes, your reality changes. This is the practical side of quantum physics manifestation, the recognition that transformation requires both understanding and consistent practice. Let's bring in some ancient wisdom here, because this isn't new. The Greeks knew this. Plato talked about the world of forms, the idea that physical reality is just a shadow of a higher, more perfect reality. And what determines which shadow you see? Your perception, your consciousness. The Egyptians taught that thought was the first act of creation. The Vedic texts from India, thousands of years old, say the same thing. Consciousness is primary, matter is secondary. Science is just now catching up to what mystics have known forever. Quantum manifestation bridges these ancient teachings with modern scientific validation. And here's what gets me excited. We're living in a time where the gap between science and spirituality is closing, where quantum physicists sound like monks and neuroscientists talk about consciousness like it's the most important variable in existence. We don't have to choose between logic and intuition anymore. We can have both. We can understand the mechanics and still honor the mystery. We can embrace manifestation science while respecting the sacred nature of creation itself. So let's talk about what this means for your life right now. If your thoughts are collapsing quantum possibilities into form, then every moment is a choice, every thought is a vote, every emotion is a broadcast. And the question isn't whether you're creating your reality, you are. The question is, are you doing it consciously or unconsciously? Most people are stuck in unconscious creation. They wake up, think the same thoughts they thought yesterday, feel the same emotions, take the same actions, and wonder why nothing changes. But nothing changes because they're observing the same reality. They're collapsing the same wave function over and over. It's like watching the same movie on repeat and expecting a different ending. But you're different because you're here, you're watching this, you're curious, you're open, and that curiosity, that openness, that's the first step. That's the crack in the old pattern. That's the moment the wave function starts to shift. Here's what I want you to understand. You don't have to be perfect at this. You don't have to meditate for hours or never have a negative thought again. You just have to tip the scale. You just have to spend more time observing what you want than observing what you don't want. You just have to align your energy more often than you misalign it. That's it. Because the quantum field doesn't need you to be flawless. It just needs you to be intentional. This is the beauty of quantum manifestation. It's accessible to everyone willing to practice conscious observation. And when you start using these techniques, when you start observing consciously, something incredible happens. You stop feeling like life is happening to you. You start feeling like you're happening to life. You stop waiting for permission or proof or perfect conditions. You start moving, creating, shifting, and reality starts moving with you. In the comments, share one small act you're committing to today, something that anchors you into your new reality. It could be as simple as breathe, or trust, or open. Your word matters, your act matters, because you matter. Let me tell you something else. The quantum field doesn't judge. It doesn't care if you're rich or poor, educated or not, young or old. It responds to one thing, the signal you're sending. And that signal is determined by your state of being, not your circumstances, your state. So even if your life looks a certain way right now, even if things feel stuck or hard or confusing, you can change your state. You can shift your frequency. And when you do, the field responds. It has to. That's the law. That's how consciousness creates reality, through the consistent alignment of your internal state with your desired outcome. Now, I mentioned earlier that the fourth technique is the observer effect practice. And I want to come back to that because it's the foundation of everything. If you master this, if you truly understand how to observe consciously, you unlock the entire mechanism of manifestation. And here's the beautiful part. There's an entire video dedicated to breaking this down step by step. It's called the Observer Effect Technique, and it's already live. You can click and watch it now on the end screen. It goes deeper into the science, gives you advanced practices, and shows you how quantum physicists use this exact method to prove consciousness creates reality. Make sure you share this video with your friends and family. You could be a blessing in disguise for them. For you, it may be just sharing, but for someone in need, it may mean a life, and their gratitude will increase the positivity in the field we're all creating together. Let me leave you with this. Reality is not solid, it's fluid. It's made of waves, probabilities, potential. And you, with your awareness, with your focus, with your observation, you're the one collapsing those waves into form. You're not a victim of reality, you're a co-creator of it. And the moment you accept that, the moment you step into that power, everything shifts. This is quantum physics manifestation in its essence. the recognition that you're not separate from the creative process. You are the creative process. You don't need permission. You don't need to wait for the right time. You just need to start. Start observing differently. Start aligning your thoughts and emotions. Start trusting that the quantum field is responding to you even when you can't see it yet. Because it is, every single moment. This is the promise of manifestation science, that when you understand the mechanics and apply them consistently, transformation is inevitable. So here's your challenge. For the next 7 days, practice the observer effect. Every day, write down 3 things you observed that align with the reality you want. 3 signs, 3 shifts. 3 moments where you felt it. Do that for 7 days and watch what happens. Watch how your awareness changes. Watch how reality starts to rearrange itself around your new observation. This is quantum manifestation in action, the daily practice that proves consciousness creates reality. You've got the science, you've got the techniques, now it's time to prove it to yourself. Not because I said so, not because some study said so, but because you experienced it. Because you collapsed a new possibility and watched it become real. If this strikes a chord and fills a gap for you, consider staying connected here. Subscribe and hit the bell icon if your brain just went, "Damn, I needed to hear that." This isn't just a channel, it's a frequency. If you felt a nudge or a change while watching, you're already tuned in. We're not just watching content, we're practicing new ways of being. I'm truly glad you're here. And remember, the Observer Effect Technique video is waiting for you. It's the next step. It's where you go deeper, where you master the practice that scientists use to prove consciousness creates reality. Click and watch it now. Your quantum leap is already in motion. You just have to keep observing it into form. You're not here by accident. You're here because some part of you knows this is true. Some part of you has always known you're more powerful than you were taught. Trust that part. Follow that part. And let's create something incredible together.